Hello, and welcome to Two Coffees and a Mic. I am your host, and this is my co-host for Medical Week, Kathy Loux, my mom. Let's get some background. Where'd you go to college? I mean, you're a nurse, registered nurse, correct?
I went to Drexel. I've been a nurse for about 20 years.
At the same job.
At the same job.
Yeah. Today we're reviewing a case of high radiation exposure. Hisachi Ouchi, I believe I'm pronouncing that. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but I'm not sure. But today we're going to cover it and, try and make a podcast out of it. I haven't done this in a while, so I might be a little slow. I might not have all my thoughts together, but I have a 14-page Google Doc on him, so I'll be able to review everything. So, as you can tell, I have a few decorations for the set. I have a model of the human heart. There are empty pill bottles. You can't see it over here because it's out of frame. But we also have a coffee machine, mini fridge. You want a water?
No, I'm good.
All right. So, our special medical week is about Hisachi Ouchi, he was a nuclear power plant worker who on September 30th, 1999, experienced an extremely high dose of radiation from the, what does that say? It was a catastrophic human error, which was from, okay, so the accident occurred at a small fuel preparation plant operated by JCO, and this was in Japan, so it's a Japanese company, which was an affiliate of Sumitomo Metal Mining in Tokai-Mura, approximately 70 miles northwest of Tokyo. The facility supplied specialized research and experimental reactors, which means that everything was probably very new technology, which although technology can be new, there's also room for failure, correct?
Always.
Yeah. I've got a nice coffee. The brand of coffee beans is Ethiopia. It's a very nice brand. I got it from a world market. The world market that we go to down at, where's that?
I'm not sure what town that is, but it's good.
Close to us, relatively close. But the incident occurred at a metal mining company, nuclear power plant. And the reduced oversight contributed to a systemic vulnerability, allowing a catastrophic human error to unfold with consequences. The incident underscores that critically safety protocols are paramount regardless of a facility's scale and purpose. Which, what do you think that means? Were you listening?
Sorry. I was looking up this guy that received the highest radiation ever injected. A different guy. It was part of an experiment. But it's crazy because they were saying that he lived 21 years after, which is crazy. But also, part of this says that he didn't even know he was being tested with that.
Oh, it was like the CIA or something that did it?
They never told him. They just used his financial problems to gather information and said they just needed his stool and urine samples. That's crazy.
I think I heard about that. He went to a hospital, right? And he went to a hospital and he got an injection, right? And that was radiation inside the injection. Well, not. What does it say?
They also said they were, I guess, also looking at rats at the same time. Although he didn't have cancer, it never explained why he continued to be monitored for decades following the injections. Yeah, so they were injecting him.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. I think I read about it sometime. I'm going to disconnect that smoke alarm, okay? I don't want that. So I guess that's what they were injecting him with.
Yeah.
Whatever isotope of plutonium that was. Maybe it was the isotope. Maybe it decayed fast in his body.
But it's still in his bones years later.
Is he still alive, or?
No, he's dead.
No. When did he die? Do you know? Well, what was his name? What was his name?
Oof.
Should I light a candle? Do you have a lighter? Because we have candles.
Albert Stevenson.
Albert?
Albert Stevens.
He was a house painter and decorator. Albert Stevens, also known as Patient Cow 1, and most radioactive human ever, was a house painter from Ohio who was subjected to an involuntarily human radiation experiment and survived the highest known accumulation of radiation in any human. So this was in the 40s. I guess this could be related to the Manhattan Project in a way. You know what that is, Mom?
The name sounds familiar.
There was one they were building, that bomb.
Oh.
The bomb for World War II. That one didn't light. Guess I'll light this one. But I guess it could be they were maybe testing it to, you know, see how high someone could survive radiation, because, you know, they needed to wipe out Japan. Well, not wipe out, but decimate Japan so that they would surrender.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we've had a little chat, so I guess we should get on to Hisachi Ouchi.
Well, at least this guy knew he was taking risks by working in a power plant, right?
Yeah.
These other people didn't even know.
Yeah. Okay, so the human error that triggered the disaster involved a disregard for established safety protocols. Workers were instructed to use an automatic pump to mix up to 2.4 kilograms of enriched uranium with nitric acid for purifying reactor fuel. I guess, obviously that's unsafe, you know, workers doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were mixing it in, let's see, maybe buckets or something, but I'm not entirely sure. They manually used a stainless steel bucket and mixed a dangerous excessive 16 kilograms of fissile material into a precipitation tank. The tank was not designed to handle such a volume of concentration or uranium solution. So I guess that is what, you know, kind of started the chain reaction that led to the, you know, nuclear. Was it a nuclear meltdown? I'm not sure.
I think they grade them. When I was looking, there was that movie about the nuclear power plant that had a mistake in, was it the 70s? In the United States and Pennsylvania. I think it's graded like, I don't know, levels 1 to 7 maybe. And I think that one you're talking about is maybe like a high one, like a 7, but the one in Pennsylvania, they say it was like maybe a 5.
The worst nuclear power plant accident in U.S. history occurred at the Free Mile Island Nuclear Generating Station in Pennsylvania on March 28, 1979. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I thought it would be like at, what was the one your dad hoped you built? Well, not you.
Limerick.
Limerick.
I think they've only had some mild, supposed. I think they have had some stuff that's happened, but they say there was not really much of an effect. But who knows, right?
Yeah, who knows what may happen in the future.
Because I think the case in Pennsylvania, there was like a Netflix documentary on it, and the environmental people claim that there wasn't much of an effect, but the people that live there say, like, no, we've had higher rates of cancer. So, I mean, you know, who do you trust? I would trust the people that live there and live through it.
Yeah, and I guess another good point to add is that as things that we build in the past get older, there's more susceptibility for things to fail. So, as the future comes along every year, we start to have more and more of a chance for something bad to happen like that, you know?
Well, if upgrades aren't made, I guess, right?
Yeah, but even if upgrades aren't made, I guess whatever probability that there is for something to fail may still, like, be higher than something that was built recently. Because older technology, you know, some things probably can't be changed, but I'm not entirely sure. Now, back to this Free Mile Island Nuclear Generating Station. A partial meltdown of the Unit 2 reactor core happened due to a combination of equipment malfunctions, design flaws, and human errors. So, 4 a.m., I'm just going to talk about this before we get back to Hisachi. At 4 a.m. on March 28, 1979, a pressure valve in the Unit 2 reactor failed to close. So I'm not entirely sure how these nuclear power plants work, these nuclear generating stations, the things with the steam stacks.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess things open and close the reactor. You watched the Chernobyl documentary, right?
I did. Yeah.
The whole thing?
Years ago, but yes. And then, like Chernobyl, like they had documentaries on that. That one's crazy.
Yeah. So I guess you might know a little bit more about nuclear reactors than me.
Very little more.
Hey, a little goes a
yeah.
long way when somebody knows nothing. The core partially melted. I guess I'm not so sure what a core is. But maybe I should have done more research before we started the podcast. But,
All I know is it's crazy. And when you look at the pictures of Chernobyl and like the animals and how they've mutated, and then I think it's like the one area you can't go back there for like 20,000 years because it's still dangerous. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah. You know about the elephant's foot?
No.
Okay, so the elephant's foot it was from Chernobyl, right? And it is a large mass of corium, which corium is a radioactive metal. Fuel-containing metal. Never mind. It's a material that is created in a nuclear reactor during a nuclear meltdown accident. And so it's made up of concrete, sand, steel, uranium, zirconium. And this is when... So, you know how when Chernobyl kind of melted down, they just sent in miners. Not miners, but people who mined things. They sent in people to go clean up Chernobyl and to stop all this stuff from happening. And so after, and I'm paraphrasing, but my memory's a little fuzzy, after they went into this area with the elephant's foot, this is a photo of it. I'll put that up on the screen when I'm editing it. They died very quick because that is a very extremely radioactive, thing. Very radioactive. So, back to Hisachi. Workers were instructed to use an automatic, compounding the arrow. This was JCO's first batch of fuel that was for the specific reactor in 3 years, and proper training and qualification requirements were notably lacking. Yeah. There's always human error in everything, but some things you need to minimize the error. This critically or uncontrolled nuclear chain reaction did not immediately stop. It continued intermittently for about 20 hours. This fluctuating activity occurred because as the solution boiled vigorously, voids, which were empty spaces, formed, temporarily stopping the chain reaction. But as the solution cooled and these voids disappeared, the reaction would resume. This reveals that a critical accident is not necessarily a single contained burst of energy, but it can be a prolonged event, continuously, exposing people to radiation. The duration significantly increased the total dose received by those nearby and complicated emergency response, as the source of radiation remained active for a considerable period, which posed an ongoing risk as it was physically brought under by draining cooling water, which a neutron reflector. What is a neutron reflector? It is a material surrounding the core of a nuclear reactor that scatters or reflects neutrons back into the core. So, I guess it brings back things. That wasn't very specific, but I'm new to this. I mean, I've done it before. But, I'm starting again. But they added boric acid, which is a neutron absorber, to the tank. The immediate aftermath saw 3 workers directly exposed to extremely high levels of radiation. Hisachi Ouchi, who was aged 35, who was closest to the tank, received an estimated 17 sieverts of radiation. And these other people, Masato Shinohara, who was age 29, received 10 SVs, and the supervisor, Yutaka Yokokawa, age 54, received 3 SVs. For context, 7 sieverts is considered a potentially lethal dose, and 8 sieverts is considered fatal.
Mm.
The maximum annual dose for Japanese nuclear workers is 15 millisieverts, which is 0.05, and Ouchi's dose was 17,000 times stronger than that. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
Yeah.
I know in the hospital we have to wear like radiation badges, and they measure how much radiation we're receiving just working around the hospital. But certainly no one's numbers or anything like that. It's crazy.
When I'm watching, House, the TV show,
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes see them wearing these kind of lead vests. Is it lead? Is it lead?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're wearing?
Not me, but the CAT scan tech or X-ray tech, they are, because they're constantly being exposed. Yeah.
Isn't it weird how the people inside the machines aren't wearing them? Would that interfere with the machine?
It would interfere with what they're looking to see.
Huh. What? Well, primarily an irradiation of that accident, meaning it did not result in a significant release of radioactive materials or widespread contamination, 49 people were exposed. That's a lot, with a total of 119 people receiving a radiation dose over 1 milli-SV. This broader group included emergency services personnel, workers at a nearby golf course. I guess there was a golf course. I didn't know they played golf in Japan.
Oh, I don't know. I don't watch golf.
I mean, Dad does.
Yeah.
The host of the podcast when we're doing something else. And local residents. Many of these individuals were not immediately informed of the nuclear nature of the accident. The response to the accident was notably delayed. JCO took over an hour to inform local authorities, and the central government waited 12 hours before advising 310,000 residents within a 10-kilometer radius of the site to stay indoors and close their windows. It seems as if whenever there's an accident, more often than not, there's a delay in, help. There's a delay in people getting warned to leave an area or to shelter. If there's a tornado, for example, sometimes the government will take a while.
I'm pretty sure that people that live right around that power plant area, I think there's some sort of signal that goes off. And I'm not sure if they have some sort of pill they pick up every year, or
like an injection.
Oh, I think it's a pill.
The chemotherapy pills.
No.
I don't know. Chemotherapy, radiation to kill the cancer. Wait, do they use radiation to kill cancer?
Yeah, there's radiation therapy.
But radiation also causes cancer.
Let's see. A Limerick generating station, like other nuclear power. Oh, my phone just died. But
what was the question you typed in? I'll search it.
What pill does Limerick Power Plant give out to local residents?
Give out to local residents. Potassium iodide. Iodide.
So does it tell you what if it alarms? Has that ever happened where they've told the people of Limerick they have to take the pill?
Okay. Potassium iodide is a medication that protects the thyroid gland from absorbing harmful radioactive iodine in the event of a nuclear emergency.
Can you see if they've ever had to issue a warning to its residents to take the medication?
Has Limerick ever had to issue a warning to its residents and give out potassium iodide? Let's see. They have not issued an emergency warning to its residents that required the distribution of potassium iodide. The thyroid. There's a lot about the thyroid. Hyperthyroidism, hypo. I don't know why. did that, but I don't know. Grandma was talking about hyperthyroidism.
Yeah.
Well, hypo, meaning less than normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, slow. Okay, let's see. A lack of information and inadequate response fueled extreme anxiety among residents, many of whom experienced physical abnormalities and mental symptoms, and expressed anxiety over the future of effects of radiation symptoms for themselves and their families. The public and psychological response, fueled by delayed information and the visible suffering of victims like Ouchi, severely eroded trust in authorities and nuclear technology itself. Alright, I think we should get into the treatment. We have all the background information of who Hisachi is. He's a worker at this plant.
Mm-hmm.
They were mixing things with, in a steel bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, how do you treat something like that, all that exposure?
Okay. So the main presentations, the main conditions that he had from this, from this exposure was acute radiation symptom, which is an acute illness, caused by the exposure of the entire body or most of it to a high dose of radiation in a very short time, which is typically minutes. For ARS to occur, the radiation dose must be large, external, and penetrating, delivered to a significant portion of the body in a very short time frame. A challenge in diagnosing ARS is that it has no unique sign or symptom, which makes it difficult to identify without a clear history of exposure. Now, ARS manifests in three main presentations, each devastating in its own right, and all of which Hisachi experienced. Bone marrow syndrome, do you know what that is?
I would assume like suppression of the bone marrow.
Yeah. The syndrome typically occurs within radiation doses between 0.7 and 10 GWs. The primary cause of death in this syndrome is destruction of the bone marrow, the soft fatty tissue inside bones that produce all types of blood cells. Now, without a functioning bone marrow, the body cannot produce white blood cells, which are lymphocytes, which are crucial for fighting infection. So I guess you're very susceptible to AIDS, something.
Or any sort of infection. Your white blood cells aren't working.
Probably not AIDS.
Probably just other things, too.
Yeah. Now, other things he experienced was gastrointestinal syndrome, cutaneous radio syndrome, which was skin damage. It destroys the basal cell layer of the skin, which is responsible for skin regeneration, and it leads to inflammation, redness, and dry, moist, peeling or shedding of the skin.
I wonder if it's very painful.
I bet it is. Let me look that up. Unless you're given painkillers, I bet that it probably is very painful. I probably don't need to look that up.
It's awful.
Now, the latent stage, which is a brief period where initial symptoms may appear to improve, which is very deceptive in its own right. The higher dose means a shorter, almost non-existent latent period before the onset of new, more serious symptoms. For Ouchi, despite 17 SB's dose, he initially appeared deceptively stable, quote, conscious with only mild redness, yet initially his condition worsened within a day. Now, it's very much a paradox in this way, Now.
Yeah, I guess you think you got him out, you got him to the hospital,
Yeah.
And then they decline.
Okay. So now we're moving on to the next part of this podcast. Hisachi's battle, which was an 83-day medical timeline. I believe he died on September 17th or 19th of the 90s. Maybe I'll cut that out. They probably already know. This is a pretty popular medical case. But it's good for us to start with since, we might know something about it already. So, immediately...
Was it something his sister donated? Weren't you telling me something about that?
His sister donated bone marrow because he could not produce white blood cells to fight infection. Now, on September 30th, 1999, day 1, immediately after receiving the 17 sieverts of radiation, he collapsed and vomited violently. He was airlifted to the National Institute of Radiological Sciences, which is NIRS, Despite the severity of his exposure, he appeared stable, conscious, and with only mild redness. His face was slightly red and swollen, his eyes were bloodshot, and he complained of pain in his ears and hand, but there were no immediate blisters or burns. But however, the initial outward appearance masked a internal reality. Blood tests quickly revealed that his lymphatic blood count had plunged to almost zero.
Hmm.
Yeah. So does that mean that he has no white blood cells?
I don't know. It sounds bad.
Which means his entire immune system was failing. Chromosome analysis confirmed extensive cellular destruction and shattered bone marrow cells, indicating his body was unable to make new cells, and his immune system was nearly non-existent. By day 3, respiratory distress set in, necessitating oxygen supply. He was then transferred to the University of Tokyo Hospital, where doctors initiated plans for an experimental stem cell treatment transplant.
Mm-hmm.
On October 6th and 7th, days 6 and 7, he underwent what was reportedly the first world cell transfusion of peripheral stem cells. His sister volunteered as the donor, and her stem cells, not bone marrow, stem cells were harvested and transplanted. And despite the intervention, Hisaichi's condition continued to deteriorate. His skin began peeling under medical tape, foreshadowing the severe radiation and burns to come. By day 8 and 9, the skin on his right hand, which was closest to the radiation source, blistered and fell off.
Oh.
Yeah, gross. Horrible, too.
That's amazing that they would even think, even though the treatment didn't work, think of doing that back in what year? The 70s?
No, this was 1999.
Oh.
Still a while
Yeah.
ago. Almost 26 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, so the skin on his right hand fell off, and nurses observed that tape ripped away layers of flesh. By day 10 and 11, his epidermis, which was the outside protective layer of his skin, had completely vanished, exposing the raw, sensitive dermis underneath. The radiation had destroyed the chromosomes needed for skin regeneration, leaving his body unable to heal itself. And the pain became intense, requiring constant morphine.
Mm.
He was intubated despite his respiratory failure and relied on intravenous nutrition as he could no longer eat. A grim detail emerged by day 12 and 14, when doctors found early signs of stem cell engraftment. Critically, the donor cells themselves had already shown chromosomal damage, which was from the radiation within Ouchi's body.
Mm.
Now, the continuous fluid loss, which he started to lose fluid, the lack of a functioning immune system, and widespread cellular damage led to his systemic collapse. His body was breaking down at a fundamentally biological level. Doctors maintained aggressive support, keeping him alive through daily transfusions of huge amounts of blood and fluids, and treating him with drugs normally unavailable in Japan, which shows very high priority.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 months into his ordeal, around day 59, Ouchi's heart stopped for approximately 70 minutes.
Mm.
Isn't that is a long time,
Yeah.
you know? Finished off my coffee. I'm going to go grab another one. I'll cut this out. I guess I'll have a water. One water in here. Now, back to the case. After his heart stopped for 70 minutes, doctors revived him. And, however, despite brief periods of recovery, his condition took a turn for the worse. He remained in critical condition, with drugs being used simply to maintain his blood pressure and pulse at levels, normal levels. His blood pressure was caused by septicemia, which is a severe life-threatening response to infection. You know about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sepsis, yeah.
Now, on December 21st, 1999, at 11:21 p.m., after 83 agonizing days, his body finally gave out and he succumbed to multiple organ failure. Doctors who treated him stated at a news conference that they did not take the special measures like heart massage to resuscitate him after his final heart failure, as his family's wishes for his death to come peacefully.
Mm-hmm.
This decision, which was made in accordance with his family's wishes, marked the end of the battle.
Well, that's awful.
Yeah.
Now, would you be hesitant? They say that the 3 Mile Island, even though they claim didn't do that much damage, help with like the regulations and people, taking power plants more seriously. But would you be hesitant to live right near one?
Probably because, you never know. You never know what may happen. Somebody, people, as they, get more comfortable with working in a place, they, start to kind of slack, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They start to stop following safety regulations. They don't do the things that they did on their first days.
Yeah.
So there could always be a chance for failure,
Mm-hmm.
like Hisachi's case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, really upsetting. The poor guy.
Yeah.
Interesting to learn about, though.
Very.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
It was good having you.
All right.
That was a good podcast.
All right.
I think we, kept the flow going there.